sipping and roasting. Yeah, that's what we do. Set 'em up, knock 'em down, make that cherry glow. Whiskey and cigars, the gentleman's cologne.
Cheers, y'all.
That sounds like a party just about to happen, ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine radio show, podcast, and video extravaganza known internationally
Hi, Mom.
as the world-famous Smokin' and Toastin'. Our program's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars, not necessarily, but potentially in that order. And we are up to show number 378.
That's getting pretty close. We're just about to round the corner of the halfway point to 400, I believe.
Okay, good. It's good to be halfway to 400, and before you know it, we'll be on the downhill side of that. Excited about it. Today's show is something I just want to stop and let everyone know. Today's program is one that you need to listen to right now.
Right now.
That is the best. Well, it may not be the best, but it's one of the best, like, slug lines if you're trying to get clicks or listens or what have you. So we need to use that every show we do. When we have Dan Crowell from Glenmorangie on, it needs to be Dan Crowell talks about Glenmorangie right now.
Oh, yeah.
But you know what might even be better than the right now?
What's that?
It's another one I'm starting to see crop up as I'm looking.
And you
for.
won't believe what happened?
Well, it's close. It's close. Today's show, the official title, 24 beers you need to try before you die.
Die.
Yeah.
For some of you, it's not so long.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if that has as much urgency as right now, but it has more gravity because
I think
it's
it depends
dealing
on your
with,
age.
I think it does. But remember, something can happen at any point in time.
Oh, yeah.
So you
That's-
better get busy on these 24 beers we're going to tell you about today.
That's a good one because so I think we got the three. Then you got the right now, you got the before you die, and then the I tried these beers on my podcast, and you won't believe what happened.
Right? Yeah.
I'd hate one
People
day-
are talking about these beers we tried on the podcast, and the results are amazing.
You'd hate to one day look up and see a bus coming at you and be like, I have 3 more beers to try.
That's right. Exactly. That's exactly right. It's exactly right. So we'll give you the list, the 24 beers, and you can get to it because you never know. Because you never know. We want to say a big thanks to last week's special guest, our Smokin' and Toastin' legal expert, Trey Boring.
It was so fun.
He is always great to have on the show, and he kind of caught us up to where we are with all the cigar legislation and anti-cigar legislation, and so that's a pretty good thing. Want to remind you to tell your radio station wherever you
We
are.
need some legislation.
We do. I think that would be good. Let's hire a lobbyist. We want to make sure you tell your radio station, your talk station in your market, your city, wherever you do. You remember I want my MTV? You call them up and say I want my S&T. You guys are
S&T.
going to help us evangelize getting the show on more stations.
Exactly.
That's a good thing.
Love that
But
idea.
our primary thing, of course, has always been the podcast and the video cast, and so we're glad that you're watching and listening. We have a big show coming up for you today. We have some things I think you're going to be very interested in tasting today in. From Eureka Heights here in our home city of Houston.
Eureka Heights is delicious.
Well, you know their cream ale, the Buckle Bunny, right? That's a favorite.
That's a gold medal winning from GABF
and
a few years back.
and it's a really good cream ale.
Yeah,
it's
outstanding.
I like having it around because not only is it great for people who aren't drinkers of like big beer, like stouts or porters or even IPAs, but it also has got enough awesome flavor to it that people who are into bigger beers enjoy this as a lighter beer.
Yeah.
It's not like having to drink a Bud Light and going, or a Michelob Ultra and going, I can't taste anything, you know? So, but Buckle Bunny now has a new spinoff, a new cousin, if you will. It's the Buckle Bunny Citrus.
Oh.
And so we'll be trying that today. It is still a cream
I
ale.
wonder where they got the name from.
Citrus or Buckle Bunny?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I don't know. We'll explore that.
I'm being silly.
Yeah, we'll explore that. And you know, of course, where Buckle Bunny comes from.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Just making sure. If you don't know.
That's a rodeo term.
Yeah, look it up. Try a rodeo website or Urban Dictionary. From BlackStack Brewing. I don't believe we've had a beer from these guys before on the show. They're out of St. Paul, Minnesota. We'll be trying their pale ale called Pull Tabs. And I checked the can. It doesn't actually have a pull tab. It has one of the more modern stuff. But it reminded me of, you remember that? When sodas and beers had those pull-off tabs?
Yeah.
I'm old enough.
You can cut yourself on the get to the beach.
Big time. Big time. And then from Pasa Robles, California, a brewery that I know, Ian, that you don't care for these guys, Firestone Walker.
Oh, the worst.
Yeah.
The worst.
They make some of the most amazing. They're
805.
805.
Their
It's
Luponic
just so good.
Series,
Yeah, all of their IPAs are tremendous. But we'll be trying something that I think you may be looking forward to here. It's called Parabolita. Parabolita. And it is a bourbon barrel-aged stout with all kinds of things. But when they do these special things at Firestone Walker, they have a tendency to
They have
be
the
really
Velvet
good.
Merkin. They have all those. Man, there's so many good. So many good beers from them.
So the tequila we're going to try today is Excellia Tequila Anejo. And it wasn't until I got this bottle, did the necessary clearing of the plastic from the top and the
that helps eliminate spillage, and then I don't when I go to pour it, I don't have to worry about getting it cut with a little plastic around the top.
And I actually tried a little bit of this. That I realized we've had this on the show before, so we're going to have it again today because it's
You know what? Okay,
I'm gonna just go ahead and give away the headline here. It's too good not to have again. So we're going to have it again, and that's just the way it's going to be. We'll also be bringing you our most popular segment, a little thing we like to call drinking news, and our drinking news story is one where it is sometimes, but not always, about drinking, but it is always best enjoyed if you've been drinking. And our drinking news teaser headline for today is: imitation is the sincerest form of something. So we'll look forward to that today here on the program. Tell you about some cigars to watch for. Cigar Aficionado just released a list of a dozen high-scoring cigars that you should be smoking. They didn't say right now, but they should.
implied. It's implied.
Right, it's implied. Thank you. And I don't know if we talked about this last week or not, but I want to make sure we do. A beer festival in Manchester, in the UK, in England, has been compared to an ill-fated Willy Wonka experience.
What?
And we've been to a few festivals that were less than...
I mean, you got to organize that.
Yeah, you really do. So we'll look forward to telling you about that. And, of course, the headline, 24 beers you need to try before you die. Yes. But before we get any further in the program and risk, any sort of serious life-ending situation, we want to try a little something that we like to call
the Beverage of Mystery.
By the way, the Beverage of Mystery music is The Visitor by Shane Ivers, and you can find his work at chosic.com. Our Beverage of Mystery is one where one of us will bring in a beverage, usually an alcoholic beverage. I guess not always, but most of the time. Something that we've been able to get our hands on that the other guys don't know what it is. So I brought this in. I know what it is, but you guys don't know.
It smells fruity.
So you're going to be doing a blind tasting.
Cherry Sprite.
It does smell like a cherry Sprite.
Cherry Sprite. It really does.
Yeah, it really.
I get the red punch fruity kind of.
Oh,
thing
you do
going
get
on.
a fruit. I get that. Yeah.
Yeah, big time. Almost. Yeah. You said cherry Sprite.
Yeah,
right?
cherry Sprite.
You definitely get a cherry note.
Cherry
on there.
Sprite.
And maybe a little lime.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So, and clearly it's carbonated.
I hope it tastes as good as it smells.
It's clearly carbonated.
Yeah. Well, clearly you can tell
It is carbonated.
that it is carbonated. Yeah. So
I'm waiting for the nasty aftertaste to hit me, and it's not hitting me.
yeah,
It's not as strong as it smells, but it's still a pleasant flavor.
I can tell you that it is 5.5% ABV,
Wow.
but it doesn't taste necessarily like
No.
it's quite that boozy. I mean, not that 5.5 is a lot.
No, but it doesn't
that's-
taste like anything.
That's more than the Buckle Bunny Citrus we're going to have, I think, which is like 4.6.
That's a.
I mean, this is
craft
almost like
beer.
you could mistake it if you were drinking seltzer water and then just like, oops.
After a couple sips, there's a little tiny bit of that sweetener aftertaste.
See, I
but
really
it's not,
don't get it.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's.
I think you really have to look for it, and I get what you're saying.
I think this would be even better over ice
Yeah.
if it were just absolutely super cold.
I actually really like the flavor of this.
Yeah.
It's not too sweet. That's the thing. A part of it. This is very mild on the sweetness.
It's got
I'm
a
gonna-
real.
I'm going to tell you that this is...
Is that a beverage can in your pocket,
Yes,
sir?
yes, it is, and I am happy to see you as well. But this is. I'll just go ahead and give it away now. This is my favorite canned cocktail that I have ever tried.
It's just pretty good.
Yeah, it is called Sammy's Beach Bar Cocktail,
Wow.
I've never even seen this.
and the box. It comes in a box of 4, I believe. The box of 4 has a big picture of Sammy on the side, and the Sammy in question is Sammy Hagar. So just like he I think has nailed this. I don't know how much input he had into the concoction of it or whatever, whether his name's just on it. But he's been in the beverage business. Cabo Wabo Tequila
Yeah.
was
It says
his first.
Hawaiian punch on here.
Yeah.
Like a Hawaiian style punch.
I was gonna say it did have like a Hawaiian punch, high C type fruit
sparkling
punch.
island pop sparkling rum cocktail.
But I think he's now been more successful with a canned cocktail than any of the others we've ever tried. Just like, you're gonna get so weirded out on me when I say this. Just like he was more successful and had more chart hits
Oh, no.
as the
Oh,
frontman
no,
of Van Halen
Don't.
than the David Lee Roth era.
So I'm okay with that.
Are you really? See, I thought I would get huge pushback from you
Here's
here.
the thing. Sammy Hagar.
I only really said this to mess
the
with you.
newer singer in Van Halen, but he's been in a band like 4 times longer than David Lee Roth ever
Well,
was.
he's not in Van Halen currently.
Well, you know what I mean.
But yeah, they did.
You're forgetting Gary Sharon.
Oh, yeah. And how can we forget Gary Sharon?
I love me some Gary Sharon.
He's
I was
great,
not
but
a
that
huge
album was
fan
not good.
of Gary Sharon with Van Halen.
Yeah.
All I can
But
think
Sammy
of
Hagar,
is Airheads when they ask Harold Ramis that, and
Yeah.
he's which was better, Van Halen with, or which way did you side? And he was like, Sammy Hagar. I mean, it's arguable. He had a lot of gold records.
it totally is true. They had more chart hits
I will tell you,
with Sammy Hagar than they
I
did with David Lee
love,
Roth.
if I'm going to sit down and listen to some Van Halen, I love the classic David Lee Roth stuff, but they had so many good songs. And it's funny because they're not necessarily all one album, because like all the David Lee Roth stuff is condensed into what are 4 albums? Is that it?
Yeah, I think 4. When 1984 was the 4th album,
was the
right?
last, yeah.
That was the last David Lee Roth.
So it was
so.
like Van Halen, Diver Down, Women and Children first, and then 4, right?
Yeah.
And
it was Van Halen 2.
Oh, yeah, Van Halen 2,
that's
yeah.
right.
So there was 5
albums.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's all condensed into 5 albums, which came out pretty close to each other as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like back then, people used to actually put albums out instead of spend 5 years making one.
I do love the David Lee Roth era stuff. I'm a fan of Sammy.
There's a great
But
old documentary
Sammy-
on that, hosted by J.J. Jackson.
Sammy
It's amazing.
had so many songs with them over so many albums.
Yeah.
That like when you compile it and you look at it, there's probably as many great Sammy songs as there are Dave songs.
There's great songs from both, and I actually saw
right now,
yeah. Come on.
that's a beautiful song. Like,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
I heard David Lee Roth talk about this once on a radio show. He said the difference between him and Sammy Hagar is Sammy Hagar writes songs like "That's What Love Is Made Of," and David Lee Roth wrote songs like "Ain't Talking About Love." That was kind of
Yeah.
that's their worldview. So it's kind of cool to get both of them within the Van Halen catalog. All right, we talked about Van Halen, but I got to tell you, that's a good
This is
canned cocktail.
pretty
Really
good
good.
canned cocktail.
It really is. So we'll
Really
talk
good.
about it some more. We'll talk about what cigars we might have enjoyed this week, and or maybe we didn't enjoy them.
Sweetened
we'll find
with
out.
agave nectar.
We'll be right back. It's Smoking and Toasting. It's a rum cocktail, by the way. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. By the way, I'm a much better air drummer than I am an actual drummer. And air drums, I kill.
kill it on air drums.
Absolutely. You should see me when Phil Collins In the Air Tonight comes on.
I can air drum and
I
air
nail
bass.
that mother.
I'm a multi-air instrumentalist.
Yeah, that's very good. I worked one place years ago that we had an air band competition. So you would get your whole, you would outfit the whole band. You have an air drummer, guitar player, bass player, the whole thing, and then perform the song and see how you do. I want to say the winner did a David Lee Roth Van Halen song. So, just the last thing about Sammy Hagar. He's been in this beverage business for a while now. Cabo Wabo tequila, that Anejo for Cabo Wabo is delicious. Yeah. And he wound up selling that. Now he does both rums and tequilas with Guy Fieri, I think, who also is in the cigar business these days. We'll talk about that a little bit in Cigars to Watch For coming up. But speaking of cigars, I wonder if you had a chance to smoke anything interesting this week, my friend.
I did. I took inspiration from you this week. I picked up something
that you'd already reported about on the show.
Well, no. So this is a series, the H. Upmann 1844 cigars. There's a series of them, and I've talked about a few of them, but not this one. This is this was the Nicaraguan A.J. Fernandez Heritage.
Nice.
Have you had this one?
Yes, I have.
So this was a Churchill 7x54.
No, if you want to buy me one so I can try it.
This is a Churchill 7x54 Brazilian Modafina wrapper, Nicaraguan binder, Nicaraguan and Brazilian filler. The appearance on this dark espresso brown wrapper, smooth with few veins. Pardon me. Oily and leathery to the touch, very firm feel overall. With two bands, it had the H. Upmann band that said, 1844, and then it had the band underneath that said A.J. Fernandez Heritage. The pre-light sniff on this, I got earth, I got barnyard, I got sweet bread, and dark fruit. I used a V-cut on this, had a medium draw to it, sweet creamy mocha, rich earth, fermented hay, leather, and dark fruit. I was drawing through it even before I lit it. The initial light on this came in with the Nicaraguan Pepper Blast. Mm-hmm. Now, I know you're thinking there should be a song for that. That might happen one of these days.
That'd be awesome, if there was a Nicaraguan Pepper Blast song. For a while, by the way, I was doing my own to the tune of Staying Alive by the Bee Gees.
It was really scary.
And it was very scary. And yet, as often as I did it, it still didn't prompt you to go and write an actual song. Maybe I should bring back...
No matter how bad it was.
It threw me into a songwriting depression, actually, is what it did.
Pepper Blast. All right. I won't do any more. I'm sorry. I've completely invalidated your review.
Every time I thought of music, I thought of that, and I thought music can be used for evil.
Apparently so.
The Nicaraguan Pepper Blast, full and spicy with an oaky dryness. Retrohale's spicy spice with pepper. So I would be careful on a retrohale on this if you first light it.
Spicy Spice was my favorite Spice Girl band.
Spicy Spice with pepper.
Yeah.
The first third of this, sweet and spicy with massive plumes of dense smoke, mocha and sweet coffee with notes of earth and dark fruit, backed by oak and toast. Keep in mind this whole thing is very spicy the entire time, so I'm going to let you just understand that that's happening the whole time all these other flavors are happening.
I got it. Spice.
Spice, lots of spice.
This
immediately comes in like, this is definitely on the high side of medium or the low side of a full flavored cigar. The second third of this, loads of dense flavors, including pepper, mocha, coffee, leather, earth, dark fruit, oak, toast. All these things I'm getting through here. Retrohale is peppery and sweet oak. Solid ash, good burn.
And AJ knows how to blend a cigar, doesn't he?
He does, doesn't he? The last third of this, I got a nutty and tangy leather note kind of developed here at the end. All the other flavors remain intact and strong. The retrohale is peppery and woody. The retrohale finally backed down just a little bit on the last third of this, and it was a little peppery, a little woody. Solid ash, perfect burn on the last bit of this. This cigar comes in for a Churchill $11.25. That's a pretty good price for a big cigar.
for a big cigar like that.
It gets a solid 5 across the board for everything about it. It's so good. I will buy more of these. It is, however, quite the time commitment because it took me an hour and a half to smoke that cigar.
Well, you can tell when you look at it that it's going to be a nice long smoke.
And it did not burn fast either.
Yeah,
it took a while.
Love that.
But great cigar.
I'll take the time. I had an interesting cigar this week that I want to tell you about. I had the Room 101 14th Anniversary Toro. And when I wrote it on the show notes, I got the space in the wrong place. So it looked like I had a Room 1011 4th Anniversary Toro. But the correct thing is Room 101
Not
14th Anniversary cigar. It was released last year, and it's become a yearly tradition for Room 101 that began with their 10th anniversary back in 2019. The look and the packaging have been similar each year except for a change in the primary color of the band, and this year's is red. The Room 101 14th Anniversary is a 6x52 Toro made entirely of Nicaraguan tobacco, including a Nicaraguan Maduro wrapper, and it was blended by somebody that you probably have not heard me mention before on this show. It's a cigar maker, you won't believe this, named A.J. Fernandez.
That guy, what does he know?
Okay, just every show. I mention him every show. Honestly, is there anything that this guy doesn't blend? I wasn't aware of that, though, when I bought the 14th anniversary. But once I discovered it, I was pretty stoked to get down to smoking it. The pre-light sniff was dominated by earthy notes, although I did pick up a hint of chocolate cake batter, particularly on the cold draw. Seemed pretty yummy so far, so I used my lighter to get things started. I did get a Nicaraguan pepper blast. No song, but a blast. But it wasn't as overwhelming as I was kind of expecting. It was present, but not quite as big. It did begin leaving a spicy tang on my tongue pretty quickly, though, but it was rather pleasant. Early notes from the first third were earth and a wood note that I would compare less to oak or cedar and reminded me more of those wood chips that you get in a bag and you use them when you're grilling to like flavor the smoke of the grill. A very pronounced woodsy note. I also got a hint of bitter chocolate, kind of like a baker's chocolate. The ash held on until right at the beginning of the second third, and then once I got into that, the pepper seemed to ramp itself up a little bit. A little bit less earth, but still plenty of wood chips. If you've ever used cherry wood chips in your fire, you know the flavor I'm trying to describe. Construction seemed good, not razor straight, but not problematic. Nice volume of smoke and a pleasant room note, even though I smoked it outside. By the final third, the pepper was dominant, and I'd almost describe it as having a sort of a jalapeno kick to it on the tongue. I loved it, but if you don't like a peppery smoke, the Room 101 14th Anniversary might not be for you, because it was peppery. Even though the cigar didn't start out with an overly huge Nicaraguan pepper blast, the strength of the 14th Anniversary built and built as it smoked. I had read that this cigar was medium to full-bodied, but in my experience, you can take the medium part of that right out of it, because this was big. Yeah, the latest Room 101 Anniversary blend is every bit as big and bold and full-bodied as AJ's New World, which is one of my go-tos when I want a big, strong cigar. I enjoyed it with my old standby, some salted caramel iced tea that I brewed myself with Bigelow salted caramel tea bags. Try it, you'll like it. But my pairing suggestion for this cigar, I think it would be amazing with a pint of Guinness. And I'm going to try to, like, when I'm doing these cigar reviews, try to think about what I would pair it with, a beer or a spirit or
Perspective pairing.
The Room 101 14th Anniversary Toro is about a $14 cigar, and it delivers pretty well. I'm not sure that it's that much better than an A.J. Fernandez New World, which is several dollars cheaper, but I didn't have the feeling that I overpaid, so I'll give it a nice, solid 5 on the price-to-quality scale. But I must add, you won't like this if you're not looking for a big, strong, bold, full-bodied cigar. Eat something first, you have been warned. It was good, but it was big. And I've done like 2 out of the last 3 weeks. The cigars that I've talked about have just been absolutely huge,
just
full-bodied
strength.
But, you know, I kind of like that. So that works. It works for me. Even though my sweet spot is probably medium to full, I can enjoy one of these big ones for a while. But it had a pepper kick to it, for sure.
Yeah, you're not going to smoke like 4 of them in a night.
No, absolutely not. All right, we are going to take a break here. When we come back, it's time to start the tasting. We have Buckle Bunny Citrus on tap. Well, not on tap, but in a can for the next segment. And we have a lot to get to, including those beers that you have to try before you die. 24 of them.
Before you die.
We'll be right back. Wow, I don't know how you stretched that out that long, but that was great. That was just absolutely great. Welcome back.
That was called trying not to tear my fingernail.
Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And while Ian's pouring this Buckle Bunny Citrus, which we're about to taste, I have to tell you that the city council, Ian asked me earlier off the air if I would want to have a city council member on the show. And I was like, sure, as long as they're like interested in some of this stuff. I don't need to have one come on and preach at us to stop, poisoning the minds of America or something. But yeah, as long as they're interested, if they like cigars or craft beers or spirits or something, we'd love to have one on. But no one is invited from the city council in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Not so much.
Because those people have lost their damn minds.
What happened
Check
now?
this out. So they've been toying.
They don't have a great track record.
No, they don't. They've been toying with this smoking in any kind of public buildings, including cigar lounges, thing for a while. And there's been an exemption for, there's actually only one cigar lounge in the city limits that's affected by this. And they had proposed that their exemption be taken away so because people can go in there and, like in most cigar stores that have, couches and chairs and stuff, have a lounge area for people to sit and smoke cigars. Mm-hmm. But the Minneapolis City Council has decided not to ban smoking in that establishment. What they decided instead is they would preserve the exemption that the shop enjoyed, but they would limit. So here's the background on it. The shop rallied for and lobbied for the exemption because they said people come into their business where they sell cigars and they buy cigars. They sample the cigars while they're there, so they can sit down,
that makes
smoke,
sense,
and sample the cigars. Right? They said, okay, the cigar sampling exemption can stay, but we're going to limit it to 15 minutes.
I don't even know what to say about that.
Wow.
Which means you can go in there. How long was the cigar you reviewed today?
An hour and a half.
An hour and a half. So if you'd gone in and bought that cigar and sat down before you were even halfway done with your first third of it, you'd have to put it out and leave.
I'm amazed. Okay, so the government takes out or puts so many taxes on cigars, right?
Right.
Just tons of them.
Oh, yeah.
Like tons and tons. Like they're the first cigars and smoking in general, but cigars take the brunt. They're like the whipping boys of the industry.
Well, they are, and the reason is,
and because
if you're running for office and you're proposing to raise people's taxes, there's virtually no way you're going to win that election.
Yeah,
because nobody's going to vote for you. Yeah, I'm going to vote for Ian because he promised to raise my taxes.
Yeah, that's right.
Nobody's going to do that. So instead, what they do is they pile on the sin taxes on cigarettes or cigars or on alcohol or on and it's ridiculous.
So the city also adds their own taxes on top of this, right?
Yeah.
You would think that they like cigar shops because how much taxes are they getting?
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm not talking about. Okay, so one cigar shop is not keeping the schools running, right? Because a lot of those cigar taxes go to school funds, right? Mm-hmm. How funny is that? But here's the thing, right? You would think that they would love cigar lounges.
You would think, yeah.
Because it's not like, okay, we're making this tiny percentage off of this thing. So, we get a couple cigar lounges out, we're not good. But the amount of taxes that they pile on top of cigars per cigar is way higher than what you pile on top of anything else.
Right. On
right. It's outrageous.
Package of chicken at the store or something.
And so you'd think they'd want to incentivize people to open up 16 of those.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
What's the benefit of letting people only smoke for 15 minutes?
It makes
as
no
opposed,
sense.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is there a benefit? What are they trying to do?
This is how
here?
you know that these are people who are legislating on something they completely don't understand.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make, you might as well ban it.
What's the
difference?
difference?
There's so many people out there, and these people exist. There's so many people out there that cigar smoking has 100% no effect on their life other than it exists.
Right.
Yet they rally against it like it's the thing that I don't even know what to say.
Meanwhile, the store and lounge in question has now decided to only stock Robustos. Because you'll have less of the cigar that you'll have to put out. I made that up. They didn't actually say that, but that's what you
We have
to
these
do.
15-minute cigars that we have now.
right.
That's so outrageous. Okay, we're going to go ahead and let people come in and sample cigars for 15 minutes.
Yeah, and then you have to
I
put
don't
it out.
even
Put it
know
out
of
and
a
go home.
15-minute cigar. Even those little cigarellos,
The ones in the
size
tins? Yeah,
cigars
yeah.
that comes in a tin, take 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So,
You know.
anyway, there you go.
That's
That's the ridiculousness. Let's talk about something that I don't think is going to be ridiculous: the Buckle Bunny Citrus. Ian has poured it.
Citrus cream ale.
It's from
So is it the same thing as
Eureka
Buckle
Heights?
Bunny, but now has a flavor added to
Well,
it?
I don't think they added a flavor, but they probably used some Citra hops. Would be
Yeah,
my guess.
yeah.
So yeah.
Hold on to your hold on to your pulp. We hopped this little cream ale up with mega citrus flavors, crisp, delightful, and ready for a squeeze. It says.
Have you tasted it yet?
I did. It's actually pretty darn good.
It's delicious.
Wow.
I
It's
love
like- it's
Buckle
like-
Bunny. I like this even better.
I was going to say,
Well, it's
when he
so
couldn't like
interesting
Buckle
because,
Bunny
like,
more.
citrusy and hoppy, but not like a hazy IPA or
Right.
juicy IPA. Not at all. It's
No,
it's,
it
it's
doesn't-
just still got a creamy, smooth kind of thing going on to it.
It still has the texture of a cream ale, that really smooth, easy drinking, and it leaves a wonderful little tang
It's
on your tongue.
carved really nice too. I think it's a little less carb than the regular Buckle Bunny,
You know, we need
but
to
it's right.
we need to have the Eureka Heights folks on the show again because they do some wonderful beers. I see you laughing. Is there a story I don't know
We'll
about?
work on that.
Yeah. Is there a story I don't know about?
Well, the last time I spoke with their guy, I said, "Hey, man, I'm interested in having you on the show," and he goes, "I don't have any time," and walks off.
Wow. Okay. Well, maybe.
And that's what I
maybe we
got
don't.
from him.
Maybe
Then
we
he
don't.
came back a little while later and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be rude." And I was like, "No, I got you loud and clear, buddy.
Yeah. Well,
Still like their beers."
maybe he was formulating this because this is good. Maybe it took him some
Really
time to figure out how to hop it appropriately. So, but no, this is really good. I don't know if it is a limited time beer or whether it's something. It's 4.5%. I don't know if it's a limited time beer or if it's something that's going to be a regular part of their line now.
I
But
love the aftertaste on it.
so good, isn't
I'd
it?
love to have that all summer.
Yeah.
That's going to be great for all summer.
Yeah, it's really good. So Eureka Heights, of course, located here in our hometown of Houston. But anybody that's coming through, these guys they make very, very good beers. They really do.
Yeah, agreed.
And this is a wonderful addition.
They have,
to the
and
lineup.
they always have an ESB on tap, which I love that. Like who else does that?
Yeah. I don't know what else to say about it, but I really dig it. I really
They
think
do
it's
make a good
good.
beer.
Loving it. Talk about some cigars to watch for. As soon as I find my notes, there they are. After getting announced during the Pro Cigar Festival in February, Charlie Minato from Half Wheel says that De Los Reyes Don Julio's Cigar of the Year, not Cigar of the Year, it's De Los Reyes Don Julio's Year of the Dragon limited cigar. There's a lot of these coming out now. It's now arriving at stores. It's one of the newest releases from De Los Reyes, which is not a cigar company we've talked about a lot here on the show. But it's combining the Don Julio brand, which they own, with the symbol for this year on the Chinese zodiac calendar, the dragon. It's a 6x52 Toro, uses an Ecuadorian Habano wrapper over what the company is describing as a secret blend guarded by the spirits of the ancients.
A secret blend of herbs and spices.
Which includes aged Dominican tobaccos. In the U.S., this is going to be set at about a $28 cigar, and it's limited to
hobo spices.
I just want to know, was it guarded
boxes.
by Genghis Khan, or was it guarded by that guy from the little kid from The Grudge, or whatever?
Right. Probably that. As we've mentioned before, Asylum, Davidoff Drew Estate, El Septimo, General Cigar Company, Gurkha, Habanos South America, JM Tobacco, La Galeria, Oliva, Maya Selva, Plasencia, Rocky Patel, United Cigars, and Vega Fina are all doing Year of the Dragon cigars.
Wow.
So and now you can add the Don Julio de los Reyes people to that. Now, I know that you're familiar with the fine folks at Warped Cigars.
Yes.
And they are celebrating 10 years of what started as a limited edition release back in 2014, the Don Reynaldo brand. It turned out to be a hit. and then went into regular production the following year. Now the Don Reinaldo has been available for a decade, and Warped has created a 10th anniversary edition. And
Gonna have
this
to
is
look for that.
not only a larger size than the original Corona, but more full-bodied as well, and it's on its way to retailers as we speak. The Don Reinaldo Gran Reinaldo 10th anniversary is a Toro-sized cigar made with a Dominican Corojo wrapper and binder from Nicaragua. Inside is a stronger blend of Nicaraguan and Dominican tobaccos. The cigars will be $24 each, suggested retail, and they come in 10-count boxes, and only 750 boxes are being made. So you're seeing this happen a lot, that cigar companies are getting a limited amount of tobacco for a particular blend.
Right.
And so they just make it really limited, and when it's gone, it's
Just
gone.
make all of it, put it out there, and
I just gave you a couple of cigars for your birthday, and one of those,
happy birthday to me.
yeah, one of those, it's a small cigar, but it's a limited blend from Oliva that I had never seen before getting this. It's called the Oliva Black Swan, and we know the Black Swan is a rare thing, right?
Right.
So this is a very, very low quantity of these were made, and I'm going to be real curious to see what you think
Has
of it when you
such an
smoke it.
interesting looking wrapper on it too. Mm-hmm. It's kind of a mottled brown,
Yeah.
but in a cool way.
And it's just cool because Oliva doesn't make a lot of different blends. You know, they
They make
don't-
the ones they make, and they don't put out a lot of new stuff all the time.
Yeah, so anytime I see something new from those guys, it's
That being said, they did
It's a thing.
that. They did that blend for CI for the Nica Libre, and it's outrageously good.
so good.
They did
So good.
They also have a few new things coming out shape wise. They did a little Perfecto, and then they had that 135 that came out. So
Yeah. That, I still have one of those in my humidor.
Yeah,
I'm
it's delicious.
kind of saving that.
I just
bad
finished
boy.
mine the other night.
Hey, it's Guy Fieri's birthday. I know it's your birthday, but coming up. But
Right on.
Guy Fieri's having a birthday. We talked about him a little earlier. He's big buddies with Sammy Hagar. I have found that most people fall into one of three categories. They either love Guy Fieri, or they hate Guy Fieri, or they have no freaking idea who Guy Fieri is.
Exactly, yeah.
For the uninitiated, he's a host of a number of shows, mostly on the TV Food Network, and he seems to prefer diners and dives and greasy spoon type places over the
Recognized
more
by his hair and sunglasses.
yeah, over the more refined cuisine spots, where a dinner for two can sometimes cost nearly as much as the GDP of small European country. Fieri got into the cigar biz by partnering with Espinosa Cigars, and beginning last year, he released the Knuckle Sandwich cigar, the Knuckle Sandwich 55. This year, he turns 56, and he's releasing the Knuckle Sandwich 56.
Where did he get the name?
The 56 uses a Mexican San Andres wrapper. I think it basically is saying this is a nice, strong cigar. It uses a Mexican San Andres wrapper over Nicaraguan binder and fillers, and it's produced at the San Lotano Cigar Factory in Nicaragua, owned by some dude named AJ Fernandez. It's a 6x56 Toro. It's priced at $16 and limited, again, another limited cigar, only 1,500 boxes of 10 cigars each. It was actually released a little bit earlier this year, but the 55, when it came out last year, sold out quickly. So you will want to be on the lookout for the 56. Half Wheel reviewed it and gave it a score of 91.
Wow.
So that's a pretty,
Yeah.
yeah. The Half Wheel guys, they're, how can I say this? I trust their ratings
Yeah.
more than some other cigar magazines and websites. Not that I don't trust Cigar Aficionado, but I don't know. Some about Half Wheel, I just love the way they come at stuff. They seem like
Their
they're
reviews
really
are-
legit, right?
Yeah, their reviews come across very legit. They come across very honest, and if they don't like something or if their cigar is falling apart and things like that,
Yeah,
they don't
they'll
pull
tell
any
you about it.
punches.
Right.
They don't make any excuses for the company. They're
And Charlie Minato, who we've had on the show before, who is one of the big wigs at Half Wheel, I enjoy reading his cigar reviews.
Yeah.
Because this guy you think Ian and I pick up flavors in cigars? He's amazing. Like his palate must be one of the best, like in the world, because he will talk about stuff. And sometimes I'll smoke that cigar and I'll go back and read his review, and I'll go, I get this and this, but I have no idea where he
Right.
was getting, salted hazelnuts or whatever.
And it's funny because I get lost sometimes when I'm smoking a cigar. I'm like, there's a flavor in there, and I can't place it.
Yeah, I do
and that
too.
guy just. I don't
He places
know.
it.
Yeah, I don't know how he just nails what it is at all times.
He's really good at that. So I enjoy reading him and aspiring. And my palate now, I can discern more flavors today than I could when we first started the show.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
yeah.
and it's
Well,
really
it's a learning curve.
And part of it is about reading somebody like Charlie that is able to pick up all this stuff. And that's halfwheel.com, by the way, if you want to go and read these reviews.
Yeah.
But he, I enjoy reading what he writes, then trying that cigar and see if I can find those flavors that he mentions. It's a good way to learn if you're trying to train your palate to pick stuff up. I'm just saying,
Half Wheel is one of my favorite too, and if you want to keep up with what's new, what's coming out, all those things, they have,
and they're very prolific. They're always
all that
writing new
stuff,
stuff. Yeah, absolutely. All right, still to come on the program, we will have drinking news. Of course, we're going to tell you about the 24 craft beers you need to try before you die. Oh, see,
I got the wrong one.
It's the other one. So we'll talk about those and see how many of them we need to make sure are on our list, Ian, because I don't think we've tried all of them. So
no, as a matter of fact, some of these lists they come up with beers that I've never even heard of.
Right. Or they may not be available where we are or whatever. So yeah, so we'll be on the lookout, and we'll tell you what all those are coming up. It's Smoking and Toasted. I like that. I like that sound. That's a happy sound.
That's a good sound, right?
Indeed it is. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our show is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Ian has just popped the top.
That sound right there. That's like, whenever you grab the bag of treats for your dog or your cat and they come running.
Oh, yeah, totally.
That sound does that for me.
Yeah. There was, I was working for a radio station, and we, you know how the sales departments will sell commercials and then they include, you get to come on the morning show and be a guest to the client. So I had to do this thing on my morning show once for this pet treat company that made a product called Snossages.
Oh, Snossages.
Are you familiar with Snossages?
Oh, yes, for sure.
Okay.
I have a dog.
So what they did is they brought me a gift. I had a dog. They brought me a gift, and it was this container that you put the Snossages in, and when you open the lid, it goes, Snossages. And the idea was that your dog would learn that when he heard Snossages and would come running in the same way that you're talking about. So
it's a very Pavlovian
yeah.
thing.
Sorry to derail that, but no, it's a wonderful sound.
Great.
And the name of this beer is
I'll never get back those 3 minutes of my life.
yeah, the name of this beer is Pull Tabs, and it's interesting because we get to talking about the sound that you made when you opened the beer.
Yeah.
Do you remember what the difference is between that sound and the pull tab sound?
I do remember the pull tabs. I'm dating myself now.
Yeah.
I do remember the pull tabs, and I remember because can of Coke then I wasn't old enough to drink, but
Right.
I remember the pull tabs would give you that psh sound.
Right, you would get that initial psh.
And then you'd have the sound of the metal tearing away, but it wasn't the same kind of thing that you
This
get
is
with
a
this.
louder sound
Yes,
for
this
sure.
is definitely, and it's a more distinctive sound.
And
too,
you
I
had
think.
more of the pulling away sound, though, was the thing in that other one. You had more of the pulling.
Right, and then
when
remember when the tab would break off? Then you just had that sharp piece of metal that you'd have to sit there and try to work back and forth and try to break away from it.
Totally. Yeah, so these are better. Whoever came up with the patent
these
for this.
occasionally only once in a while fail, and that's annoying when it does. But
Yeah. You can work around it. All right. Well, while we take a minute and sample this, I want to get started on this list of the 24 beers that you need to try before you die. 24 craft beers chosen by experts. This came from a website called Gear Patrol. So, how many of these have you tried? We'll get to that. First of all, tell me what your thoughts are on pull tabs.
Pull tabs is very hoppy. It's
a pale ale. It's not labeled as an India pale ale.
No,
so.
it's very hoppy. It's also really kind of interesting. It's a little resiny on the back too, which you don't usually get in this style of beer.
in the pale ale style, yeah.
But it has a round sweetness in the middle of the palate,
yep.
that really kind of retroactively balances the bitter on the end.
Yeah, it's interesting because you get the sort of citrus up front.
It's astringent too,
and then you get that mid palate thing that you were talking about, and then you get a little of the resin, and then the resin kind of fades, and you go back to experiencing that that mid palate
Little bit
sort
of sweetness, right.
Yes, yeah.
And it's,
I like it.
and it's like I said, it's a little bit astringent too. It leaves your mouth a little bit dry, a little bit.
Yeah, for those
there's
of you
not
who don't
much
know,
information on this bottle. It does say Mosaic, Eldorado, and Idaho 7, and then it says ... Pull
so
up.
the Mosaic, I think, is where you're getting a little bit of that resiny stuff on the finish. But you're right; it kind of balances its own self out. Very, very, very
It's
interesting.
an interesting beer. I bet this is like we're getting in a can right now. I bet this fresh from the tap
Oh yeah.
is a different experience, and not that this is a bad thing, but I bet it's just a little bit different. You know,
This is from BlackStack Brewing, which is from St. Paul, Minnesota, which is the sister city to Minneapolis. They're right next to each other, and I think they even have covered walkways between the two cities because it gets so freaking cold up there in the winter.
So funny.
But my understanding is that in St. Paul, you can smoke a cigar at a cigar lounge. In Minneapolis, you can
you
for
get
15 minutes. Yeah, that's it.
That's so outrageous. I can't even believe that happens.
I can't even think. All right,
Like,
so
who was the genius that came up with that? You can smoke 15 minutes of your cigar.
yeah, clearly not someone who has ever smoked a cigar.
We'll provide you with a free timer.
Because you don't get to just go sample one for 15 minutes and then go, okay, and give it back and not have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and it's not like you can do samples like with beer where they give you like a 1 ounce pour.
Right.
So you can taste it. It doesn't work that way. If you're going to sample a cigar, what if it's a $14 cigar and you'd like to sample it?
They're not going to be selling many of those.
15 minutes, buddy.
They're not going to be selling many of those $100 Rocky Patels that came out.
I wonder if you could walk out of the store with your cigar, avoid getting a ticket because you're now smoking in public, then come back in and get another 15 minutes.
I don't know. That'd be interesting. Maybe there's a way to reset.
You know, I don't know. This is so outrageous.
Speaking of small beer pours, I think I would like a larger beer pour of the pull tabs.
I'm picking up what you're laying down,
What's
sir.
your take on this? Do you like it?
I don't not like it. It's probably not something I would go reach for. I think that it would make a difference, like I said, fresh from the tap for me on this one. It's drinkable, I think.
Have you ever had a beer called the Three Fontainen? Three Fontainen. I can't even pronounce this beer. I have not had it. Ode, Gueze, Cuvée, Armand, and Gaston.
I think that was Pig Latin, and then you named
That's
some
easy
people
for you to say.
from Beauty and the Beast.
I'm not even familiar with this beer style. I'll totally admit. It's a Gueze style. Gueuze. Gueze. It is from a brewery in Beersel, Belgium. And it is
the bottle has a big number 3 on it. Is that what I saw?
and I think
that
I've
looks
seen
familiar.
that,
I feel like I've
yes.
seen it, but I've never tried it.
All right, I'm going to look for this now and see if we can find it because it's on this list of 24 craft beers you need to try before you die, chosen by experts, they say. I don't know what you have to do to be an expert, but my dad used to say X is a has-been and spurt is a squirt under pressure. So I don't know. But my dad always said goofy crap like that. The Alchemist Heady Topper is on this list. Have you had this beer? It's from the Alchemist Brewery in Vermont, Heady Topper.
Yes.
You have had it. What's your take on it? It's a double.
It's
a double IPA.
outrageously good.
The brewery is in Vermont, and it is. They said this was the
if
beer.
you've never had that, that would immediately go on your list of
Yeah, they say this is the beer that
Amazing.
helped usher in the New England IPA craze. I have had this next beer. It's Allagash White.
Oh, yeah.
Allagash is from Portland, Maine, and that is a fine beer. I don't like a lot of white ales. I like St. Arnold's, the white ale that they have. You know the one I'm talking about?
I do, and I'm blanking on the name of it right now. I'm in the same boat. There's not a lot of them I like. I think the most outstanding ones that I know of are going to be darn it, what's the one? Celis.
Celis White, yes.
Celis White.
That's from Austin, and
there's another
Allagash
one
is
from Austin that's also amazing. Is they make Thirsty Goat and a few other ones. What's the name of the?
and they make the one with the fish and the umbrella.
You know what I'm
on
talking
it.
about. But anyway,
Backpew.
no,
not Backpew.
no. It'll come to me.
Yeah, all right.
Give
Well,
us some time.
but they make a good white. Here's another beer I can't pronounce, and I have not had. It's a Pilsner. It's called, wait, I just tapped something wrong. It's called Badish Staatsbrouwerij Rothaus AG Rothaus Pils, and it is a Pilsner style. This is from a brewery in Germany. It's over 60 years old, and they call it an elegant representation of a classic German Pilsner. It is brewed in Germany's Black
Hadn't heard of
Forest,
that before. That
and they
was
say it's
awesome.
as crisp and refreshing as it gets. There's a lot. I'm really challenged by the pronunciation of a lot of these beers.
I was
going to
say a lot of them. This is like the 24 beers you need to learn to pronounce before you die.
Exactly right. There is then the Bayerische Staatsbrauerei Wehestefaner Hefeweizenbier. It's a Hefeweizen. And this brewery is from Friesing, Germany, and it's Friesing. The German wheat beer, they say, is hazy, fluffy, and fruity with no bitterness at all. Nearly 1,000 years it was formulated before the invention of the New England style IPA.
What?
Wow.
Yeah, crazy. There is a lot of foreign beers on here that's so interesting to me. Birrifico Italiano Tipopolis is a Pilsner that is brewed in the province of Como, Italy. They call it a wonderful example of an often produced but tough to nail style. Birrifico is the name of the brewery, the name of the company.
I like that.
And it is in a cool looking little bottle. Excuse me. And
Terrifico.
I kind of like the idea of trying that. Now, here's a brewery I've heard of, Bottle Logic.
Oh, yeah.
These guys do a lot of great beers, but they have singled out their Fundamental Observation Imperial Stout. Comes in at 13.2%.
Did we have that on the show at one point in time? That bottle looks familiar.
Fundamental Observation. We might have. I will search and look for that. And the next beer on the list, I'm going to wait till the next segment to talk about, because just me trying to pronounce it would probably take up
us into the
more
next
time
segment.
than we
Take a
have
long
left
time
in
for
this segment. So
That's
I'll
easy for
practice
you to
during the
say.
break, and we'll be right back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back to Smoking and Toasting. Our show is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We're going through our list of the 24 craft beers you must try, or is it 34, that you must try before you die. I'd scroll back to the top and get the number right, but then
you'd be
I'd totally
totally
lose
lost.
my place. So let's stay where we are. The last beer on the list that we talked about was from Bottle Logic. It's their Imperial Stout called Fundamental Observation. And in the notes on this, James Dugan, who's the co-founder and co-brewer at Great Notion Brewing, talks about trying this, and he says, I've had a fair share of Imperial Stouts in the past, but this one surprised me. Since then, I've gotten to know the guys from Bottle Logic, and I realize how crazy they are. They use an insane amount of vanilla beans in each bourbon barrel, which with time take on a really cool toasted marshmallow flavor. For me, he says, this beer sets the standard for barrel-aged Imperial Stouts.
Nice.
And that is, once again, Bottle Logic's Fundamental Observation, one of the beers on this list of however many it's supposed to be that you try before you die. The next one on the list is called Brasserie de la Seine Taras Bulba, and it is a Belgian pale ale. It's brewed in Brussels. And the people who write about it here call it an eye-opening experience, a beer with a soft, hay-like malt character, a grassy brightness from the hops, and a touch of earthiness from the yeast that add complexity. So that Taras Bulba, look for Tarasboulba, Taras Bulba. And then there's another brasserie here, the Brasserie d'Orval, S.A. Orval. This one comes in a very interesting looking, almost
I've
looks
had
more
that
like
one.
a wine. Oh, you've had this?
I've had that one.
So tell me about your thoughts on it. It's
That's
a Belgian
the
pale ale.
Pale ale. Yeah, that one's so good. You know me, I'm wild about Belgian style ales anyway.
Well, this has Brettanomyces in it, so.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of sour to it. There's a little. It's
Mm-hmm.
just it's one of those that's so good and it's fruity, and just outrageously ridiculous.
In the description, they say balanced hoppiness when it's young, leaning towards a lovely funkiness as it ages. Mm-hmm. And here at Smoking and Toasting, we want the funk. Yeah, gotta have that funk. Brasserie DuPont SPRL. I don't know how you pronounce that. Saison DuPont. It's Saison, and it is brewed in Belgium. And they say it's one of the most iconic bottle-conditioned beers, offering bright, spritzy carbonation with aromatics and a flavor profile that embodies a farmhouse ale. The next beer on the list is the Brauerei. We had talked about this one already on the list. Brauerei, Brauerei. It's their Special Rauch beer. And a German Rauch beer is a smoked beer. And it says in the description here, every drinker should get out of their comfort zone and try a smoked beer. And Steve Luke, who is the brewer and owner of Cloudburst Brewing, calls this the best example of that style in the world.
I like it when breweries will do that. Our own Shiner Brewery, or Spotzel Brewery in Shiner, Texas, did a Rausch beer a while back. That it was one of their anniversary series beers, and it was. I don't know that I'd reach for it a whole bunch, but it was so fun to taste.
It's fun to try, yeah. And that's kind of the way I am with saisons and smoked beers, and they're not my favorite style. It's not when I think I want a beer. I don't think that's what I want, but I do love opening them and trying them, and I have a couple of them in my little beer closet that I'm going to have to bring in.
How do you smoke a beer? I mean, how does it get smoky? Is it something
it's
they put it in?
real hard to keep it lit.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you get smoked beer?
So they smoke the malt before they.
They smoke the malt. Okay, all right, yeah.
Next one on the list is,
to my knowledge, that's what the way it works.
From Brouwerij, Brouwerij, Brouwerij. It's a Rodenbach NV Rodenbach Classic. The style of this beer is what they call Flanders Red, not to be confused with Flanders Ned.
Stupid Flanders.
Stupid, sexy Flanders. The guy who talks about this is Anthony Accardi, co-founder and fermentologist at Transmitter Brewing. He says, I found this on draft at the Ginger Man in New York City, not knowing what I was in for in terms of flavor profile and experience.
Tart.
When I see it on draft today, I order it to bring back the experience of astonishment and revelation that tasting that beer had on me. So
it is tart.
Didn't they just shut our Ginger Man down here?
Rodenbach, I think they did.
Yeah, they did. They just shut our Ginger Man down.
The next beer is also a Flanders Red. It's the Brouwerij Verhangi Duchesse. I'm just going to send you guys to this website because I am just murdering.
I want the number one
one too.
to be Pearl.
Outrageously good.
You have had this. So
Yes.
this is the Duchesse de Bourgogne.
Duchess de Bourne.
Yeah.
Bourgogne or whatever.
Bourgogne, right.
It's not even a very big bottle. It comes in a bottle that's I think 11 and a half ounces, and it's so outrageously good.
It says here, Jason Sinon, the brewer and co-owner.
You gotta
of
like
Hudson,
sour beers if you're drinking these.
Yeah, Hudson Valley Brewery says it balances yogurt-like acidity and sweetness, and it tastes a lot like Sour Patch Kids for a beer that doesn't have any Sour Patch Kids.
I love Sour Patch Kids.
I am so excited to tell you about this next beer because I can pronounce every word in its title. It is the Daisy Cutter Half Acre Pale Ale.
Wow.
And these guys are from Chicago, Daisy Cutter. And the beer scene, they say, has certainly exploded over the years, but Half Acre, just outside of Chicago, has been putting out phenomenal product for over a decade, and Daisy Cutter is a near-perfect example of an American pale ale that checks all the boxes. I've had that. It is wonderful. Mm-hmm. And I've also had this next beer, the Goose Island Bourbon County brand Stout.
Yes.
Now, the story of Goose Island...
That's the OG...
It is. This is the OG Imperial Stout, isn't it?
Barrel-aged
stout, yeah. So the story of Goose Island is it was one of the earlier and most influential craft breweries in America, and they wound up selling the brewery at a certain point to Anheuser-Busch.
It was the first brewery to be sold to...
If you love craft beer, you will love the book Barrel-Aged Stout and Selling Out, which is the story of Goose Island. It is a fascinating read.
Yes, fascinating read, and it doesn't pull a lot of punches. Like, mistakes were made on all sides, and he lays them all out.
These days, I pretty much ignore everything that Goose Island does except for this beer.
They have this beer, and then they have that other series that includes the Sophie. And it's not called their experimental series. It's called something else, but it's also quite good still.
Yeah. Also on the list, Hill Farmhead Citra. It's just called Citra. It's an IPA from Greensboro Bend, Vermont. The owner and brewer of Puebla Vida Brewing Company, Kyle Jefferson, calls it just perfection. The best representation of any single hop variety I've had in a beer. It smells like a citrus grove in bloom and tastes like perfectly ripe peaches. That sounds good. We've had this next beer. It's Jester King's
yeah.
Le Petit Prince, and it is a table beer. Jester King is out of Austin, Texas. This is a complex 2.9% farmhouse table beer that I could have on my dinner table for the rest of my life. Kyle Jefferson, who we mentioned earlier, said. The beer pairs well with any meal. Soft and delicate, yet full of flavor and funk. He says the brewers at Jester King are basically just showing off.
Oh, yeah.
This is a tough,
They
solid
make
beer to
outrageous
execute.
brews there.
Cane Brewing's Mexican Brunch is an imperial milk porter. And they are located in Ocean, New Jersey. And the Eric Ruda, who's the owner of Magnify Brewing, talks about Cane and says they do a great job of balancing the flavors from a rich base beer with the delicate flavors of the adjuncts. So if you know what that means, congratulations. Because I'm not sure if I get it.
You have some experience.
Perennial Abraxas. We had this beer on the show last week.
Oh, that was the one.
Yep, it was outstanding.
Yes, it was.
It's Imperial Stout. This is the beer that I got it before I realized that it had some chilies in it.
Right.
And I was really kind of worried about that because it was a big, expensive bottle. I was really excited about it because it was named after, or it was the same name as the Santana classic album. And plus, at Perennial Artisan Ales, those guys are really good. But I was worried about this because I don't generally like spicy beers. And it was fantastic.
Yeah, it was outrageous. We had to stay and finish the bottle.
They call it easily one of the most consistently delicious stouts year after year. So there you go. The Sante Adarius Rustic Ales Saison Bernice from the brewery in Capitola, California. Tornado, I think is that's a place where it's interesting that they say the brewery location, but I guess Sante Adarius is Sante Adarius Rustic Ales is the name of the brewery.
Gotcha.
Okay, and the Saison Bernice is the name of the beer.
Yeah, I've
Sometimes
never
hard
heard
to
of that one.
figure that out. They're from California. Schnanielul Brewery, Marlene.
What?
So
God bless you.
let me spell it for you. SCHNEEEULE. Schnanielul.
Schlemiel.
Yeah.
Schlemazel. Hasen
This is
Pfeffer
a Berliner
Incorporated.
Weiss, and the brewery is from Berlin. So interesting to me how many European beers, particularly from Germany and Belgium, have made this list.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Side projects, Bière du Pais. We've had this on the show. Ian, I don't know if you recognize that.
Yeah, that looks familiar.
It's a Saison, and Side Project is a brewery out of Maplewood, Missouri. Also on this list, it's so good to see this getting the recognition it deserves.
Right. Keeping it real.
Sierra Nevada Pale Ale.
Great beer.
They're from Chico, California. John Bernstein, who's the author of the Complete Beer Course and Complete IPA, the guide to your favorite craft beer, says no matter if I buy this beer at a gas station, off a highway exit ramp, a grocery store, or an airport, the quality is guaranteed to be the same. Impeccable. That is a really good beer.
Yep, agreed.
Yeast of Eden, great name.
Yeast of Eden, I love it.
Family Minor is a grisette. And it is brewed in Carmel by the Sea, California. The co-founder of the Rare Barrel, Alex Wallace, says, this is my favorite grisette because it's both complex yet crushable with a hint of acidity. It can really fit whatever mood you have for beer. If you're new to the grisette beer style, you can think of a grisette as something like a sessionable saison.
Okay, I've had a grisette before, and I couldn't remember what the style was.
Yeah. So now we have gone through this entire list. The list is at gearpatrol.com, and the name of the article is 24 craft beers you need to try before you die.
That's
chosen
a
by
fun list
experts.
because there's a lot of attainable stuff on there.
Right.
It drives me a little crazy when you get to these lists and like
You can't get any of it.
24 beers you must try, and you haven't heard of a single one. Or a
Right.
brewery,
And they're all limited beers that came out 3 years
yes,
ago.
and they
that
only
there's none
distribute
left.
3 miles from the brewery.
Right,
and-
exactly. So, one of the things that I love about the craft beer scene, and it's it's changing, it's metamorphosizing, but it's so possible now to visit another city and really get a sense for what their craft beer scene is like, because it doesn't matter where you go. even a city as small as like Blanco, Texas, up in the Texas Hill Country, they've got craft breweries there. I told you about my vacation near New Braunfels last year.
Yeah.
And I went to this Guadalupe Brewing Company. Oh, it was
brought
outstanding.
back outstanding beers
It was
from there.
amazing. Their beers were so good, and they were just in the middle of freaking nowhere. And
Well, that whole, just FYI, that whole middle of freaking nowhere, Texas, is all German settled too.
Yeah, so
there's a lot of heritage in that
There's some
area.
beer heritage there.
And by the way, if
You're
you want
100%
to stop,
right.
like you're driving out there, Luling, City Market, or places like that, Schulenburg,
Couple of
those
weeks.
areas, man. There's a meat market in Schulenburg that has the best sausage. You just go in there, and you, not for eating right now, for like taking home.
A couple of weeks from now, we're going to be on location in a town like that, Magnolia, Texas. But Magnolia, Texas has the distinction of being where Lone Pint Brewery is. Perhaps
we're headed towards the Piney
one
Woods
of
now.
the best breweries in America. We'll talk about
IPA is so good.
We'll talk about that a little
Gentleman's
more
Relish is
coming
so
up.
good.
Plus, drinking news is right around the corner, and we've yet to taste the tequila. We'll do that next. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our show is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. That sound, that lovely sound effect that was made by real, actual opening of a bottle that you just heard. That's the one I'm talking about. It's such a lovely sound effect. Boy, see, what you need for me is one of those sausages things that when you open it up, it makes that sound. Yeah, instead of going, sausages, it just makes that whoop, whoop sound. I would absolutely love that. So Ian's passing around this tequila. This is the Excellia tequila. We've actually had this on the show before, but it's been a while. And to be honest, I didn't remember. And then when I tasted it, I was like, how could I have not remembered this?
Right.
Because I'm going to tell you, I'll go ahead and, not bury the headline. This tequila's good. It's really good. This is an añejo.
Tell us how you really feel.
I'm just saying, you're not going to be disappointed by this, is what I'm saying.
I don't remember the bottle looking like this. Was
see,
it a different looking bottle?
I don't know. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe
Sometimes
that's
they
why I
change
forgot
the
it.
bottle.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell.
Well, Americans, by the way, even though they consume more beer and wine than they do spirits on a yearly basis, they are drinking a whopping, this is just Americans now, 680.5 million gallons of spirits in 2023.
That's a lot of spirits.
Million gallons.
Wow.
That's according to the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism, and they say it's likely driven by the ongoing bourbon boom and the rapid rise of tequila. Tequila. I always like watching Guillermo on Jimmy Kimmel because he's such a fan of tequila. Thing is, he keeps shooting his. But he's had some really inventive things when he's gone out, like on the red carpet. He had like a microphone, what looked like a microphone, but it was really like a flask holding for tequila. It's awesome. In any case, we're drinking tequila now, and this is am I pronouncing it right?
Excellia.
Excellia. It's a tequila añejo. This is about a $46 bottle, so it's not outrageously expensive as añejos can be.
That's it for.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna.
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
It's spicy.
I've already tasted it, and wow, that's it. $46.
Yeah. Your take, Ian.
Spicy.
Is
It's
that good or
spicy
bad?
and it's sweet. No, it's delicious. But if you like a peppery, spicy, right up front tequila, lets you know it's tequila. Like that's the first things. The first three things is spice,
So here's
agave.
here's something
and
really
pepper.
interesting. Maybe it's the beers that we've sampled, but I'm tasting this completely differently than I did
Really?
when I had it at home. When I had it at home, I was impressed more by the vanilla and the
vanilla is strong with this one.
The sort of maple on the finish. But I didn't get as much pepper as I'm getting now.
I'm getting a lot of pepper.
Yeah,
I mean,
so-
in a good way.
I get a lot of pepper. I get a lot of that fresh agave. I get a lot of. There's an interesting somewhere in the background. There's tons of vanilla, and when the vanilla washes through, there's almost a candy sweetness to the end.
Yes, 100%.
It's really, really good. It's complex. It has a lot of things going on. Excellia is an artisanal tequila made in Los Altos from 100% tequila Blue Weber agave harvested at peak maturity to ensure utmost smoothness, fruitiness, and sweetness. Double distilled in copper pot stills and double matured in old barrels of French brandy and vintage Sauternes cask, the tequila develops a unique tasting profile. From elegant fruity notes to complex flavors of spices, wood, or rancio.
So I'm drinking a Voodoo Ranger show beer here, and then I went back to the tequila. And it does change the flavor profile of the tequila a bit, but I'm really excited to have some of this along with the Imperial Stout we're going to have in the final segment.
I have a Harp Lager on the side, and I went to it after the tequila, and it doesn't do the Harp any favors at all.
Yeah. I don't know that it matches up that well with the Voodoo Ranger either.
Which Voodoo Ranger you do?
I got the Juice Force IPA.
See, it's
The
not
Harp,
horrible
however,
with the
does not
hop.
hurt the tequila at all. Look how oily this is.
Yeah.
Like it just sticks to the glass.
I'm doing the Hop Raider IPA, and it's not horrible with that. Like it doesn't mix horribly with that.
No, this is actually not bad.
IPAs are hard to match with a liquor. I mean, rye liquors, yes, but
I was going to say match them with a rye.
with a rye, yeah. But
whiskey, it can be an amazing thing.
But tequila, I think, is a little tougher when it comes to matching a beer.
Care to guess which region, north, south, east, or west of the United States is consuming the most spirits, the most total gallons of spirits per year?
Well, it's got to be somewhere cold, because what else are you going to do?
Northeast?
It's not. It's the South.
Really?
The South leads. Residents drink an average of 249.5 million total gallons of spirits per year.
Wow.
The Northeast actually drinks the least amount of spirits, coming in at 122.5 million gallons. The West ranks second.
We're winning again.
The West ranks second, 161.8, and the Midwest rounds out the top three with 146.8 gallon. But when broken down on a per capita basis, the South actually consumes the least at 0.97 gallons per person.
Oh, wow.
While the Midwest drinks the most at 1.06 gallons per person.
See, I was thinking the drinking news, a lot of the people come from the South area, so
That's true.
that
Florida,
could be like,
Florida is skewing the whole
really
South.
skewing that. Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
So,
There's
there could
no
be
question.
some
They have a
correlation.
bit of a stacked deck there.
There's no question. Toss out some states, and I'll tell you what their percentage is.
All right, how about Oklahoma?
This is actual gallons per person. Oklahoma 0.70 per person.
Wow.
No commitment whatsoever.
Texans, by the way, 0.88.
How about like California?
California 1.01.
Oh,
a little
okay.
bit
We're
more
getting into there,
drinking.
yeah.
Nevada 1.59.
Let's go Idaho.
Idaho
I know what you're thinking.
1.02.
How about like Washington State
Washington State
with Seattle?
0.90.
Wow.
And remember, this is spirit, so this
is
doesn't count
spirits.
beer and wine.
You're right, yeah.
I got to ask, what are we doing in Texas?
Texas is 0.88.
Yeah.
So it is among
How about
the
Louisiana?
least. Louisiana, 1.16.
Okay, just representing for our Louisiana listeners over there.
Which single state has the most, I wonder?
Delaware comes in at 2.46.
Hey, we're in Delaware.
Is committed.
Yeah, they believe it. New Hampshire 1.80, Rhode Island 1.50, but yeah, Delaware looks like the biggest with 2.46. Wisconsin 1.50, and Florida comes in at 1.34.
Okay,
making it of the states in the South the most per capita.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
More than California, way more than Texas.
Even more than Louisiana. That
Yeah.
was, wow.
And this shouldn't surprise you. One of the least is Utah with 0.60.
Wow.
But that's because so many of the people who live there are Mormon, and they, by religion,
How
don't drink
about
at all.
Pennsylvania, then, if you're going to go that way with the Amish and stuff? How about Pennsylvania?
Pennsylvania comes in at 0.81, so it's on the lower
average.
The lower end of the scale.
Yeah.
Again, Delaware. Delaware, 2.46.
I always think of
They're
Wayne's
nuts
World.
in Delaware.
You remember in Wayne's World when they were going through that green screen and they're like, hey, y'all, we're in Texas. And then they just go to, we're in Delaware. And then they just couldn't come up with anything
Any
to
more
say
state,
about
yeah.
Delaware. There was nothing. It's just nothing. We're in Delaware. Okay.
Also on the high end of the scale, Alaska comes in at 1.35.
Oh, okay.
Which, if you wonder about that, watch the HBO True Detective, the most recent season, with Jodie Foster on it. It paints this incredibly detailed picture of a kind of a remote Alaska town. And the first thing you think of is, if I lived there, I would be drunk all the time. There's no way to handle it. It's a really good show, by the way. But, yeah, there's no way to handle it. Delaware takes the crown for the most spirits consumed per capita per year, although the article in VinePair says it's important to note that the state's lack of sales tax likely attracts consumers from neighboring states.
Oh.
Rounding out the top three are Washington, D.C. and New Hampshire.
Wow.
All right. So we got to take a break here.
Some of the other states, though, have if we're up against it hard, I'll wait.
Yeah, we got to take a break, and when we come back, we got drinking news. So we'll be right back with drinking news, more drinking, and a little Imperial Stout from the folks at Firestone Walker. I'm excited.
That'll be good.
Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our show is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. By the way, the number I didn't give you in that article from VinePair about how much Americans consume drinking-wise is I didn't give you the total number if you add spirits to beer and wine.
Well, so I was going to say, because that was just spirits, right? So
Right.
some of those states have other avenues, like California and Texas have wine,
Right.
A lot of wine, like
Sure, yeah.
right there in the country, and then of course if you're in the Midwest, you're going to have the undocumented stills out in the hills,
Yes.
and then Florida has meth, and then
Right, there is that. That doesn't count to these numbers.
right, but it's another avenue of intoxication.
I
right?
got it, yeah. Florida has meth. Well, I will just mention that the total number of gallons of alcoholic beverages, including beer and wine and spirits, consumed annually is 8.1 billion gallons.
Wow.
So you think about the alcoholic beverage industry, pretty healthy thing right now.
Yes, well, I like to think of myself as an alcohol processing plant.
Yeah, well, and you do a darn fine job of it.
I do what I can for the industry,
Now, for those of you who like to drink, we have a little segment called Drinking News. And Drinking News is sometimes, but not always, stories about drinking. But it is always stories that are best enjoyed if you've been drinking. And we've already got tapped into the tequila, so we've been drinking. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now with pride and a bit of trepidation that we bring you the most popular segment on this program. It's a little thing we like to call Drinking News.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When asked about his absent arm, he said,
I had to take my gator to the vet.
drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Guest appearance there by Keegan Lucas, who
Gotta miss Keegan.
doesn't work with us anymore. He is off doing like deep sea diving or something. He's a very
He's flying like a little
very adventurous young man.
little eagle set on his own.
In today's Drinking News story, we tackle an age-old question that writers and philosophers have wrestled with for thousands of years.
The answer is, I was young. I needed the money.
No. It's not that. It's not where did man come from, or where does your lap go when you stand up, or
Both of those things are questions to the answer I just said.
or even how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? No, the question we're examining today is: does art imitate life, or does life imitate art?
I knew a guy named Art, and he imitated the life of
Yes, he did. All right. Great philosophers like Plato and Aristotle were decidedly in the first camp, with Aristotle arguing that it's a natural human impulse to make art that imitates the people, places, and events around them. But in his classic book, The Decay of Lying, the insightful Irish poet and playwright Oscar Wilde famously wrote that life imitates art far more than art imitates life. Now, I'm not qualified in any way to argue with the greats, but if you press me on it, I'd probably say that Wilde was right. I have seen more instances of life imitating art than vice versa. There's a couple of examples. Daphne du Maurier was the original writer of the story that Alfred Hitchcock's classic film The Birds was based on. That's the movie where flocks of enraged birds start attacking people for no apparent reason. You've seen The Birds, right? 50 years later, and this is true, Maurier's son and his wife were outside their English cottage when they were viciously attacked by birds, seagulls. Life imitating art. When Sandra Bullock's movie, The
Maybe
Net...
they're just mad because they watched the movie and they're like, hey.
Yeah. Oh, so you're related to that person. Okay, I got
They
you.
were sitting up on the roof going, you know, it'd be funny. Hold my beer.
When Sandra Bullock's movie, The Net, was released in 1995, the internet was still in its dial-up infancy. But that film shows everything from shopping and buying airline tickets online to ordering food on the web, and it even shows hackers.
And Dennis Miller.
So life did wind up imitating art. Remember, this is back when, if you even had email, that annoying voice told you so after your modem connected. You've got mail. Remember that? As a sidebar, I do remember when I loved checking my email to see if someone had written to me. Now I hate it.
Or sent you at least something funny like that they sent out to all their friends.
Now I hate it. I have to dredge through all the sales announcements and spam just to find that one message I'm looking for that is about, do I think my penis is too small? And by the way, how did they know? But anyway, our drinking news story today does involve life imitating art, at least to some degree. And only if you're pretty loose about what can be classified as art.
I've been called loose.
In this case, it's a movie. No, it's not Citizen Kane. It's not The Godfather. And it's not even Jaws. The movie in question is Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah. For a minute, I thought you were going to say Airplane. That might have been just as good. Stop calling me Shirley.
It seems that a 42-year-old Brazilian woman from Rio de Janeiro named Eureka de Souza Vieira Nunez, which I think is actually one more name than our guest a few weeks ago from Pedro Tierra. Anyway, this woman went to a South American bank to try to get a loan. And according to Rio de Janeiro civil police, our Brazilian woman entered the bank with her uncle, 68-year-old Paulo Roberto Braga, and wanted to sign papers for a loan for $3,250. Bank employees became suspicious, however, and called the police. Upon the officers' arrival at the bank, they were able to determine that the woman's uncle had likely been dead for at least 2 hours.
We're going to the bank anyway.
A video posted by Emma Boros Kid, at Emma Boros Kid on Twitter, which I once again refuse to refer to as X. Suck it, Elon. This video shows the Brazilian woman trying to hold the dead man's head up with her hand and talking to the corpse in its wheelchair as if he were alive. In the video, a bank employee tells Nunez, "I don't think this is legal. He doesn't look well. He's very pale."
Yeah, a little bit, you think?
The Brazilian woman responds in the footage and says, "He's like that." And then says to the body, "Just sign so you don't give me any more headaches. I can't take it anymore." Police are still investigating the man's cause of death. And Nunez not only didn't get the loan, but she was arrested for fraud and abuse of a corpse, which apparently is a thing in Brazil.
He didn't care anymore.
Yeah.
He was dead.
You know, I guess in the grand scheme of things,
I don't know what to say.
I guess in the grand scheme of things, life imitating Weekend at Bernie's isn't the worst thing that could happen. Yeah. We can only be thankful life didn't imitate like Air Bud, or even worse, something like Snakes on a Plane.
Snakes on a Plane. I still haven't seen that movie.
It's worth it. It's worth it's a terrible movie, but it's worth it to sit through it for the one line from Samuel L. Jackson where he says, I have had it, with these mother effing snakes on this mother effing plane. Except he doesn't say it. And this came out like, I don't know, only like a couple years after Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
So it was like the height of people wanting to hear Samuel L. Jackson swear.
Yeah.
And it was just wonderful. And it's worth watching the movie just for that.
Have you heard him read the book "Go the F to Sleep"?
No.
Yes, look that up on YouTube.
I will.
He will
I
read
will.
the bedtime story "Go to F to Sleep."
Well, as these things often do, this story has given me inspiration. And as regular listeners to Drinking News know, when I get inspired, I like to jot my thoughts down in the form of a sonnet or some prose or a poem. And despite the repeated warnings of my family and friends, I feel compelled to share that poetry with you now as a completely unnecessary public service to you, the listener. If I could have a little poetry reading music. And it goes a little something like this. A woman whose future is hazy tried a stunt at a bank that was crazy. Though her uncle sat still, she just claimed he was ill, when in truth, he was pushing up daisies. Reporting live from Rio de Janeiro.
That was beautiful, man.
Thank you. Reporting live from Rio de Janeiro, where the bank employees don't seem to believe me that I got O.J. Simpson with me here to co-sign a loan.
I mean, sure, it's just a hand sticking out of this duffel bag.
My name is Cruz, and that is your
Drinking news. Oh, drinking news. Drinking news. That's our time for drinking news. What was the movie where the guy had the guy in the duffle bag? He was like a gangster guy.
Oh, something heads
Eight
in a
heads
bag.
in a duffel bag
Eight heads
with
in a
Joe
bag,
Pesci.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that may not have been the funniest drinking news story ever, but I think it was one of the wildest.
Did she use strings to like control his hands or something like it?
She's like,
Weekend
we're
at
going to the
Bernie's?
bank. I don't care if you die.
Yeah, like
remember-
how did that?
If you remember how bad Weekend at Bernie's actually was, know
Yeah,
this.
I love it.
The sequel is not nearly as good as the first one. There is a Weekend
Yeah,
at
there
Bernie's too.
Yes, there is. Oh, yes, there is.
Remember, so one of the
I
things.
have only
Yes,
seen
there is.
clips from either one.
So you know,
you're missing out.
one of the things that has happened, like now, I subscribe to a couple. I subscribe to Netflix and Apple TV and HBO Max. And I've always got so many options for what look like really good movies that I've kind of forgotten what it used to be like. You'd go to Blockbuster looking for that latest movie that you really wanted to rent, and of course they were all gone.
Yeah,
right.
yes.
So you start scanning the shelves, and then it's starting to get late, and you got to get home, and so you wind up just watch Weekend at Bernie's too. And I watched a lot more really bad movies back in the VCR days.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
now it's like, well, I don't want to watch Weekend at Bernie's 3. I haven't watched this other movie over here that that I've been looking at.
Yeah,
So-
we waited a little while. We just watched John Wick 4.
and what you think?
It was so slow. Like I don't know how when they were going to get to the excitement in the movie. You know.
Yeah.
I mean,
John
it's
Wick. It's one of the slower, more thoughtful movie series that's out there. All right, we got a couple minutes left to taste us some Imperial Stout, and the boys from Firestone Walker. These guys know what's going on, man. Parabolita is the name of this. It's a salted caramel bourbon barrel-aged stout with vanilla beans, cacao nibs, and sea salt. Coming in at 9.2%. I'm thinking this might be right up your alley, my friend.
It makes me want to cry a little bit. Bourbon barrel aged stout
and
with
you-
vanilla beans, cocoa nibs, and sea salt, and it is.
And
the
you were
cocoa nibs
you were
are so
completely
good.
dry-eyed through drinking news, and now
I
this
know.
is making you
I
want to
know.
cry.
Yes, this is it's pretty amazing actually. Like the salted caramel is
Wow.
that caramelized, that burnt caramel kind of.
Yeah.
And then the cacao nibs come up and they just linger. You ever when you're eating a chocolate, I don't know if you're what kind of chocolate eater you are, but like I'll sit there and chew out
Like
my chocolate, but
dark.
the very last one I usually let melt.
Oh,
And then you have
interesting.
that lingering aftertaste in your mouth. That's what this leaves in your mouth. And it's so good. It's so fantastic.
So try going back to the tequila after you've had a sip of these this Firestone Walker Parabolita. Parabolita. I don't know what that means, but it sounds like a Tool song.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does.
It's like a small parabola.
Of course it
small
is. Of course, that's what it would be, right?
I mean, that would be my guess.
Direct translation.
What do you think
here.
about? I'm getting now chocolate from the tequila, like almost a bitter dark chocolate.
It's hard to tell though if that's just chocolate lingering stuck to your tongue from that Parabolita, because that chocolate profile in a Parabolita is huge.
So take another sip of this without going back to the beer now. Pepper and chocolate.
Pepper, chocolate. It gives it almost a spicy pepper kind of note. Mm-hmm. Not like a cayenne really, but like something along those lines. Interesting. Have you gone back to the beer yet?
Not yet.
Oh well. It is now like coffee bean and chocolate all day.
A coffee bean and chocolate bomb almost. Wow. This is a really, really fine stout.
It's really good.
Anytime you make something salted caramel, I'm interested. Salted caramel,
You
popcorn.
just mentioned you had salted caramel tea.
It's my favorite tea. It comes. I buy it in. I actually buy it on the internet because I can get it like in a box that's like 6 boxes of tea bags because I drink it so much. I really have cut back on drinking diet sodas, so I drink a lot of tea now, and that's my favorite. I brew it all the time, and it's wonderful. By the way, Bigelow salted caramel tea. Don't you buy it all up, you crazy people.
You people.
Almost called you something else. I apologize. I apologize for thinking that. Bless the pygmies in Africa. I'll be right back, and so will Ian and Terry. This is Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting. Our show is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Loving and enjoying this Parabolita, which is like a small parabola, apparently, or a Tool song. This is a wonderful, wonderful, flavorful stout. Just absolutely beautiful. It's not
bursting with flavor.
It's not one of those that is like so huge and boozy. I'm not even sure what the IBV
it's actually
is
got a
in.
little thinner mouthfeel than I was expecting.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
9.2 is what's coming in at.
Yeah, so I've had ones that have been bigger than this, and you're like, wow, I'm drinking a very boozy stout. This doesn't come across that way, but it just comes across delicious. It's just so flavorful. The IBS festival was not a big success, as you can imagine.
The IBS festival.
And neither
Plenty of porta cans.
neither was the IBC festival, apparently. A 2-day ticketed event, which was the first International Brewing and Cider Festival at the Depot in Mayfield, Manchester,
I hardly
in
know her.
England. Yeah, prices started at £20 and went up all the way to £90. But organizers were forced to, in a sort of a fire festival way, apologize for the, quote, less than perfect experience after a string of complaints about rude staff, cold conditions, and a poor atmosphere were made. Saying that the event was a, quote, steep learning curve, end quote, organizers said learnings and feedback will be taken into account. People took to Twitter. Sorry, I won't call it X. Suck it, Elon. They took to Twitter to share their frustration with some drawing comparisons to the disastrous Willy Wonka event, which became a viral sensation and the subject of a TV documentary after families were greeted with a near-empty warehouse. I have read that story, and it's worth just look up Willy Wonka disaster on the web, and you'll be able to see. It was this whole thing where they sold tickets to this Willy Wonka experience, and all these parents showed up with their kids, thinking their kids are going to walk through like Willy Wonka's big factory or whatever, and it was just a disaster. It was like bathtubs with chocolates in them and stuff. It was just like really sad. And apparently they're saying that this Manchester International Beer and Cider Festival, the IBC Festival, was apparently a very similar kind of experience.
Wow.
One person wrote, I don't think I've been to a worse organized event. The team couldn't organize the team couldn't organize a pee up in a brewery was made for this festival. They didn't use the word pee. I don't know if I can use that word or not, so we'll just be careful.
We understand what you're saying.
But anyway, he said people pouring onto the bar had no knowledge of any of the beers and no info on what they were pouring. Can you imagine going to
Here's
a
the
beer
beer.
festival? You're like, what is this? This stout is really delicious. I don't know.
Yes, I can.
How bad is it? How bad do you have to be to mess up a beer fest? Pretty much all you have to do is bring the beer, know a little bit about it,
Right,
and
right.
then pour it and give it
Yeah.
away. This
Even if
is
you're
literally
using-
all you
So
have to
even if
do.
you hired spokesmodels, if you just tell them a little bit.
Anything.
I've been to some events, and especially liquor events, where the companies are represented. It looks like it'd be interesting. You walk up, and there's two ladies there, and you ask them about any of their product. They're like, it's this or this. You're like, oh, you don't work for the company. You just work for a catering company that's hired to pour the...
Right. So one thing I love
Catering
about
company, not a
about
modeling
the
company.
Houston
Whiskey Fest?
The whiskey
Thank
social?
you.
Whiskey Social?
I don't know why I was blanking on that. I've been to it so many times. But when you walk around there and talk to the people in the booths, these are the people from these companies. They
Yeah,
know
yeah.
what they're talking about,
Yes.
and they can tell you.
They care.
And they go, "Oh, you like rye? Well, here,
Right.
try this." You
Yeah.
know, and it's really a wonderful experience.
But I went to a Houston Beer Festival that was downtown. Where did they used to do that? Was it Jones Plaza? Mm-hmm. Where they used to do party on the plaza right there. Yeah, it was down in that area, and they had a couple good bands playing. They had nobody showing up. They had a bunch of people show up, but they didn't have any. They had like 2 beer companies show up. 11 Below was one of them, and they of course brought enough beer that they thought they were going to have, but they also thought there was going to be like 12 or 15 other beer companies out there,
Right,
and
right.
2 of them showed up.
Wow.
So, they ran out of beer real quick. It was terrible.
I understand how difficult it can be to organize one of these events, especially your first one. But yeah, you got to do better than that.
You got
You can't start selling tickets if you only have, 2 beers and 3 whiskeys at your event.
There was a whiskey event that I went to as well. It was in the warehouses over off of what's that called? Silver Street here in Houston. And it was sad. It was so sad.
Now, we went to one, you and I both went, and it was a spirits event, and it was, I would call it mediocre. Like, it wasn't great. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. But that was where we met Alan Denny, if you recall.
That was it. Well, that was at the hotel downtown.
Right.
This was the one I'm talking about that was terrible. Was the later iteration of that? It was, I think, 2 or 3 years later, and it had just gone downhill. Mm-hmm. And even to the point where I walked in, I was like, "What is going on?" And I walked over to one of the reps that I had met before, and he's like, "Yeah, man, when I showed up, like there was nobody here." He's like, "I didn't even know what was going on."
A number of years ago, I was living in San Antonio. I was on the radio there at the time, and got asked to come be a celebrity judge for a big food and wine festival event that was going on down in the convention center. So I'm like, sure, I'll do it. So I show up, and they've got clipboards, right? And they're handing them out to the celebrity judges, people from TV stations and radio. I think somebody was there from the city council. And they're handing one to you. Okay, you're going to judge appetizers. You're going to judge main course. You're going to judge vegetables, whatever. They walk up to me and go, "You're going to judge alcoholic beverages."
Yeah.
And they hand me the clipboard. Dude, I had to leave my car there and call a cab to get home. It was out of control because I had to sample. Each one of the restaurants had like a spirit and maybe a wine and a signature cocktail that they made. And there's all these restaurants. And I'm not real good at the sip, spit out thing. I've just never been good at that. So
that ruins the aftertaste,
I was completely gone by the end of that day. But boy, was it a fun thing! I'd love to get. But yeah, somebody over there, tasting creme brulees and whatever. I'm like, what do you got? Tequila. Okay, good.
Mas tequila.
I'm enjoying this tequila. This
It's
is
very
the
good tequila.
tequila
And it
that we've-
actually goes really pretty well with the stout too.
Yeah, it does. I've been enjoying putting the two of them together, going back and forth. This tequila is Excellia tequila. It's an Anejo from Jalisco, Mexico, and it is Only about, I bought it, I think, at Specs in Midtown for about $46.
It's a real pretty bottle, too.
Yeah, it's really nice and a good one to have in your bar. So, we've had some tequilas and some rums on the show recently that I think are real close to some of the best that we've had, but they're not nearly as expensive as those. I know that coming up in a few weeks, we're going to have Dan Crowell from Glenmorangie on. Do you have any idea what we're going to be tasting on that show?
I have no idea what we're going to be tasting because I saw no bottles that I know of arrived at my house.
Yeah. Pretty sure that's not true.
Yeah.
So
pretty sure you're like concealing. This all goes back to that one bottle of Isle of Fiji. That, by the way, I'd like to point out, I bought another bottle and gave it to you. So I don't know why
that's not the point.
I don't know why I'm being persecuted for that first bottle.
So
it was really good. Come on.
So I got some tasters of a triple cask.
I think I saw a picture. They didn't look like tasters. They look like big bottles.
And then I got what I like to refer to as my birthday present.
Oh, is that what you call it?
Yeah. So it's the 10, the 12, the 16, and the 18.
Oh, that's going to be a fun show.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's the 10, the 12, and the 16.
Okay, gotcha. I understand. I got you. I'm reading you like a book here. Well, we have that to look forward to. We also
some bottle was damaged in shipping. I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, something happened. I think it broke. I dropped it on the way up here.
Yeah, so we're gonna have 5
it
different
had a hole in the top.
It's
5
like
different spirits when he's on. That's coming up pretty soon.
That's good.
That's very, very exciting. And as we mentioned a little bit earlier, we will be headed to Magnolia, Texas, to do a show on location at one of, I'm not kidding, one of the best breweries in the United States of America, in my opinion.
It's so
Lone
good.
Pine.
And you haven't been out to that location.
No, I have not. You've been there, but I haven't
I've
been
been
there.
there quite a number of times, and it's a beautiful place. They got a great outdoor area. People come, hang, bring dogs.
I remember
families.
when we had someone from Lone Pine on the show. We were doing the show on location at the New Potato, and he came out and brought stuff, and he didn't bring like the greatest IPA ever, the one they have that got me excited about Lone Pine, the Yellow Rose,
funny.
And it was like best IPA ever, and they didn't bring it. So
and then he brought a bad beer on top of that.
yeah.
Because
Thankfully,
they thought it was funny, I guess.
Thank God we didn't rave about it. It was we're like, yeah, it's okay. He goes, yeah, we didn't really like that one. So, listen, everyone, have a great week. Thank you for drinking and smoking with us. We do appreciate it. We love doing this with you. This is Smoking and Toasting, and we will see you next week. Cheers, y'all.
Cheers, y'all.
Come on.